It originally was written exactly the way I played it, but then when the first shows were shown here and they sent it to America, they said he's too sympathetic. So they sent a telegram to Spain saying from now on we want Captain Hans Dietrich to have an eye patch and a limp. And I went to the production office, I said, right back. I said, tell them to go fuck themselves, I won't do that. That's not the contract I signed. That's not the deal I made. I will not play this caricatured Nazi. The reason why I won't is because you learn nothing from it. In order to understand the entire Nazi phenomenon, you have to look at people, at normal people, who were swayed to go along with that BS. And why were they swayed? Normal people. To play the caricatured Nazi is boring. Not only that, it does a disservice to those who study history. You learn nothing from it. You only learn from how was it possible for that machinery to convince otherwise good and normal people. My father only remembers a good man, but he was very convinced of it between 33 and 38. Those were the most successful years of any leader of any country in foreign policy and domestic economic policy. So the question of anti-Semitism and all that came up, but there was a side issue. Major issue for Hitler, but for Germans a side issue. Not important. What was important, they had food on their table, and suddenly Germany was recognized again, acknowledged again. How did they seduce the normal people? That is why in Hollywood films, where they show nothing but these caricatured Nazis, they have contributed nothing to the understanding of that phenomenon. Hollywood has done an enormous disservice to history, to a lot of history. It has caricatured it. It has turned it into black and white, which is not how reality is. It's full of grays.
Was Rat Patrol part of that?
Rat Patrol was a part of that. It was a cartoon. The reality in North Africa was that Rommel fought with a small group against the entire British Eighth Army and beat the crap out of most of them, most of the time. That was the reality. Rat Patrol turned that around. People often ask me, what do you think about it? I said, it's a cartoon.
There's a couple of jeeps.
Please, give me a break. Do you understand the disservice of that? But what that did, what all those series did, Rat Patrol, Combat, Gallant Men, Garrison's Guerrillas, they romanticized that war. And they created the myth of American omnipotence. Listen to what I'm saying, it's very important, because I feel that that feeling of omnipotence was created by Hollywood. The reality of the Second World War was that the Russians contributed enormously, decisively, to the defeat of Nazi Germany. Decisively. So it wasn't just Vic Morrow and Chris George and various people defeating the Germans. Bullshit. That war, the hardest, most terrible war in the history of man, lasted 6 years. The world fought Germany. So to afterwards make caricatures of the opponents is to do a disservice. But that myth of omnipotence eventually led to the Vietnam War. Because Hollywood had contributed to the notion that we alone won that war. America didn't. But the propaganda was enormous. Hollywood has an enormous influence.